I think I have some advice on what not to plant in Pittsburgh, because holy moly, I am so frustrated right now. So this tarping, with the puddles and everything, unfortunately, has been down for at least 10 months at this point. This dirt's all churned up. I just spent 2 hours clearing from here to here, about 1.5 feet. I'm gonna go ahead and move this shovel a little and show you just how frustrating this is. Watch. All of these are hair top allium chives, and they are the bane of my existence right now. It is so frustrating trying to get these all dug out. The other thing in here that I keep running into is, despite having been under black tarp for 8 months, sweet pea everlasting, that's what it was. And it's available through any of those cheap type of catalogs that are all run through Gardens Direct or Direct Gardening. I can't remember which one it's called. And yeah, so it dies like sort of mostly, but not all the way, and there's always this big taproot where it was. And that's frustrating because it's still pretty well everywhere. It doesn't come out even when it's small. You see, I don't know if you did see that, but like there's still this little stump here. I'm gonna have to go after it with a major shovel, even though it's this tiny, spindly little, I don't know. I'm very frustrated. There's another one back there. There's some there. A whole lot of this front lot is it. So I'm gonna have to do plastic treatment on that to even have a hope. So, lot of digging. I have a friend that's promising in spring we're going to go as a team, and someone's replacing the retainer wall that's just stacked flag rock, like an old style of retainer wall. And so I will have quite a bit more of these rocks. I actually go down the hill from where I live, so you can see all these little rocks as a path. I go down the hill from where I live, and there's this, outcropping that was chopped at to make a road in probably like 1870 or something, because of where I live. And every winter it drops a whole lot more of this kind of stuff. And I just, when I have a zip car, I'll take a tarp with me and just go pick up as much as I can, stack it by the house, and start making little paths. I'm a little short on rock considering the project I'm trying to undertake, so I think what I'm going to do until then is put down boxes in between rows. I laid 2 more stones, these 2 here, and I'm countersetting them. The water drainage is working a little bit better through here, because as you remember, this just kind of like, whoa. And it was going out onto the sidewalk and out to the road, and I like to retain more of my water than that, as long as it's away from the house. So this now comes down these comes here, and it is mostly filtering in between these rocks. So there's like a hollow space in there. And it comes up here, and this rock is set down further in the front, so it just kind of like runs here. A little bit it gets on the sidewalk, and then there's gaps between these stones too. So that should channel it. I need to keep continuing because at a certain point it does still run up onto the sidewalk and out. So, I mean, at least it's not running up against the house regardless, but I'm hoping to take this and then have a channel along here in front of the elderberries, because the elderberries really prefer an extremely wet situation. And since they must be stressed by being covered in so much hops every year, I want to give them a little bit more of what they need to thrive, especially since I'm kind of taxing them. So it's January 5th, I think. It's a Saturday. And it's at least 50 degrees out here. Everything's fully thawed. So I've been attacking this because that was the thing I promised myself I'd work on this winter. I'm like basically a gardening addict. It's ridiculous. So this is my frustration, but also a very nice project to keep me busy in the winter because I go stir crazy if I have to stay inside. I'm a cross-country skier, but we are clearly not getting a whole lot of snow right now. Let's take a look at the rest of the garden. I have a video of me planting winter stratification seeds that ended up getting split, and I need to work on unsplitting it. I don't know how, because I hit stop instead of pause, but I would really like to show you what was involved in finishing that. And it is all planted in with a bunch of seeds that hopefully will come up. They need to have a certain amount of, I think it's like 45 degrees or lower in a wet situation in order to sprout. So the screen is to keep bugs and birds from eating them. It's going to do a really good job with birds because they can't get in. Bugs, we'll see, because there's ground ones too. And then the pot and pot nursery ended up with a bunch of oak leaves on top of it, and I'm treating it as mulch. They're going to stay there until I'm ready. Some of my path is under leaves too, but I'm not arguing. Strawberries, so many of them got eaten up. And the everbearings that I got were super bland. I am strongly considering, once I get this cleared out, of getting a really, because you can't typically get just a few quality everbearing strawberries. They come in batches of 25. So I'm considering filling in the retainer wall with strawberries this coming year because it's above the slugs. It's not entirely above the chipmunks. I think they were a lot of what I was fighting with. I don't know. We'll see. And then this is still working great. I added a couple rocks on top of the clay that I used here to mound this, to hopefully reduce the mud tracking on my shoes. There's not a whole lot green back here. I got some of the rocks was this piece of shale from down the hill that started fracturing. So I put that on top of the mud. This is doing fine. You can eat these all winter. Sow thistle. The asparagus flopped. We had a pretty serious heavy snow that was sticking to everything, and I don't know if I want to trim it or just wait till spring like I usually do. I realized I forgot to trim one. Again, this is my boundary. That's my property line, so not mine. I don't do grass. I forgot to trim one of the asters, and that is going to cause a problem, and I think I might cut it and put it in the fire today, because at least the number of seeds that's currently on it won't set that way. I've been pulling a ton of allium out of here, and asparagus really doesn't like any alliums, but there's been several in here. Do not plant hairtop allium unless you can't get allium to grow in your yard at all, because oh my god. Whew, it's still all up in here. You see, even after you dig it all out, every single tiny little thing that stays in, see how this is, like, that was a tiny little dot, and it's growing. They're so hard to get rid of. So, I mean, at least now a lot of these are in looser soil and I can just grab them out. But, like, do you see just by doing that how many different, because this is one that just hasn't sprouted yet, how many different of them I just pulled up? Here's one. This clump I didn't even get, so I would need a shovel. Yeah, here's two. Right here, that's two. So, in the front yard, not only do I have to spend hours digging it up, but I have to come back and go over it with, like, I've been using a lot of times with just a dandelion digger to make sure I don't just, like, because if I pull on this, it's just as likely, like, oh, it's just as likely that the stem will snap and I won't get what I want, which is the root. So that one I used as a demonstration a little high, but I've had a lot of them snap off in my hand, so I really have to do this with some sort of digger most of the time. It's like there's one, and I don't have any hope of getting it now. It'll grow again well before the end of the winter. It is easier to get at these in the winter time, at least. They're the only things that are green, so it's pretty... Well, not the only things, not by a long shot, but they're a lot more contrastingly green. You see all of these? All of these. And each of these puts out about 3,000 seeds, about that size, that are fully developed small bulbs, like bulbettes, at the end of every growing season if you don't chop them down. And it's absolutely maddening. I'd like to be fully rid of them. I don't know if that'll ever happen. So just from that. Oh, and the other thing is, if you even just set them down on the sidewalk, look at this one. This one's been here for at least 3 weeks. The only way to kill these, because you can see that's really dried out. Well, maybe you can't see. Let me see if I can get it to focus. See, the roots are all dried out, but it's still completely alive. The only thing that has managed to kill these is setting them on the hot cement for 2 weeks at the place where the afternoon sun hits. Cooks them. So what I've been doing is using a roaster and just cooking them this winter because it's too cold. They won't die. I had piles of them. I just cooked 5 roasters full right before the party so that I could put them in the compost without just having a compost full of that type of mess. I'm gonna subscribe to a funny looking food. A friend of mine got me a box of organic food subscription from Misfits. And this is what they use as insulation. It's fully biodegradable corn stuff. When I just put that in 3 days ago, it was perfectly flat, and I think that's going to compost down really nice. And I've been eating really good, so I'm going to definitely sign up for that subscription. And yeah, so I'm going to leave the plastic over the parts that I don't get to, obviously, and maybe parts that I did get to, just to kind of finish them off, I guess. It's really exhausting going through all of these frickin' hair alliums. And then also trying to dig up the deep, deep tap roots from the sweet pea everlastings. So really, really do not recommend growing those in our climate, maybe any climate, I don't know. I brought the allium to this house in '03, one of the first plants. At my dad's house, I guess the soil was really, either really alkaline or really acidic, I'm not sure which, but I could never grow allium. So if you can't grow allium, hairtop allium will grow for you, and it's a rather delicious chive, but it will not divide in the soil. It'll just survive. But if you are able to grow anything like garlic, onions, any chives, any of those flowers that are like a ball of purple at the top, about that big or bigger, then you do not want to plant hairtop allium. It's a disaster. It'll be like this. I mean, granted, this is 15 years, but it's everywhere. You can see it underneath the elderberry over here. It's full height for winter. It's evergreen. It's a pain in the neck. So, I don't know. Happy winter, because that's what we're in right now. See if we can get an overview. Trains going by. Yeah. Happy winter. Bye.